I've always had a terrible commute. Working at a late-night restaurant that's an hour drive away meant that I leave my house at 5 in the afternoon, and I come back in the early hours of the morning. In the summer, that means seeing the sunrise, and I can even say that I enjoy it sometimes. But in the winter, it's a different story. I live down winding country lanes with no streetlights, and when the trees grow too thickly around the road, it feels like a tunnel is wrapping around your car. The worst part of the journey is Ashton Road. It is a few miles long, but if I take that route back, it saves me 45 minutes on my trip. I haven't taken that route for 3 months. It had been a bad night at work. I don't remember why, but I know it was the usual trivial things that usually got to me. And with the way I felt, the last thing I wanted was to be sitting in the car for an extra 45 minutes. I should have never driven down Ashton Road on a night like that. The moonlight barely poked through the clouds, and a light mist of rain obscured any visibility that was left. I reasoned to myself that nobody else would be on the road. If I went slowly and I took my time, everything would be fine. The car wheels crunched on the immediate change to gravel as it screeched onto Ashton, and I shifted in my seat as I went along the road. I had been right. I was the only set of headlights, and I drove until the net of trees grew so thick that I had to crane forward to see what was ahead of me. The pace of my old car slowed to a crawl. Now I could barely see past a few feet. The headlights were soaked up by the darkness, and I stopped the car, frustrated. I couldn't get anywhere like this. I would barely be able to see my turnoff. I realized then that I couldn't even see the moonlight through the clouds. But as I looked up, the sky looked strangely shiny, like the chrome reflection of metal. I craned my eyes as they adjusted. I realized that it wasn't the sky that I had been looking at. In the air directly above me, there was a car. It hovered, suspended as if from wires, and I froze. In the darkness, I realized that it was my car. The same dented Mini with a flat tire. But that wasn't possible. I cranked down the window, the joints of the car squealing from the effort and carefully, my hands trembling. I looked out. Directly above me, someone with the same blonde hair as me looked out for the car window. I snapped back into the car, my breath ragged as I pulled the window back up again. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. I felt my lungs constrict and ache, like they always did when I was afraid. I grew increasingly lightheaded as I scrambled for my inhaler, breathing in 2 deep puffs, but the dizziness increased. It doubled itself, sending itself into thousands, and my head reeled. Outside, I heard the noise of a car door opening. I rested my forehead on the steering wheel, trying to find gravity again. All the while painfully aware that when I had my eyes closed, I couldn't watch the window and whatever was outside it. It was 5 minutes perhaps. It felt like hours, but finally it subsided, and I caught my breath again. I looked up, dazed, checked above me, and I saw the car was gone. I settled my heart rate and I looked around again, but I wasn't at the turn of the junction. I was at the beginning of the road. I was strangely tilted, and I realized that I wasn't even on the road itself. My car was in the ditch beside it. I felt my heart swell with relief. It was an accident. I must have hit my head. The uneasiness had left me, the feeling that raised the hair on the back of my neck. I grabbed my phone and I dialed 999, and I almost cried with relief when it rang.
Hello?
A grainy, static voice came from the end of the line.
I've had an accident.
My car went off the road and I think I hit my head. I might be crazy here, but I think somebody else is out here with me. And I'm scared. Can you send someone to Ashton Road? A buzz of white noise came over the speaker. Hello. It came again, in that same robotic voice. I strained my ears to hear over the fuzz of the telephone lines. It will be possible. The words sounded strangely pieced together, as if each syllable was said by a different person, and I cursed under my breath as my phone was disconnected. At least I had been heard. I pulled my jacket over me, shivering, and I waited. The lights came first, blue and red flashes in the darkness. I felt a pang of relief, and I reassured myself that the line between reality and imagination was slim, and I waited for the police car to come into sight. But it didn't. The lights grew ever closer in the dark, but they were disembodied. There was no car attached to the flashes, and as they grew closer, it was almost unbearably bright. I shielded my eyes, blinded, until I heard the sound of a car door shut, and immediately the light shut off. The two watery beams of light from my car flickered. I must survey you to continue. The policeman spoke. His face rested in the shadow of his hat, and my eyes strained to see past it. Look, I've had a crazy night. If there's any way I could get a lift just a little further down the road. I tried to make my voice sound firm, assertive, but the policeman remained unmoving. I couldn't even see his chest rise and fall. I'm afraid. The policeman wrapped his tongue around the words like it was painful. That will not be possible. There was no police car. I looked at the officer and I realized that his uniform was spotless, but it was strangely outdated. The strange curve of the hat and the heavy cuffs. I bit my lip. Something was wrong. I need to leave, now. I could hear the edge in my own voice. I felt concerned. The side of the ditch walling me in, and I could feel my chest tighten again. The policeman remained silent, watching me. I scrambled out of the car, and for a moment, we looked at each other. The mist from my breath plumed out in front of me. And then the policeman moved forward. His boots scraped across the ground as if some force was dragging him towards me. His hands closed around my neck so quickly that I could barely register that it had happened. I gasped, constricted, struggling. The policeman's hands were burning on my skin, and I looked up, clawing in desperation. The movement had caused his hat to tilt back, and I could now see his face in the headlights. His face was contorted to a grimace of pain and fear. I could see the purple veins running through his skin, and the thick, dark saliva that dripped from his closed mouth. Please, let me go, I gasped. I am afraid. The policeman's mouth opened and my hands dropped to my side. Inside, there were rows of teeth. Not like a shark, like a worm, jutting out from the dark flesh. Past the teeth, past the stench of death, there was a dark place. I could hear the words coming from it. They buzzed inside my head like insects. Cute vitum ligavat et vasu tua direpute. That will not be possible, the policeman said. Inside the policeman, the teeth smiled. His eyes locked onto mine. A frightened animal in a trap. Although the grip on my neck was intended to hold me in place and not cut off my air, I could feel the familiar tightening in my lungs and I gasped. "I can't breathe. I can't breathe," I whispered, the dizziness almost overwhelming me. Light spots erupted in my closed eyes and I imagined that I was falling back, falling endlessly. I hit the ground. The policeman pulled his hat over his eyes and he watched me as I struggled to the car, my fingers scrabbling over my jacket as I wrenched air into my lungs. The small plastic inhaler was in my hands and I slumped against the car as I took it in. Uncontrollable shaking wrenched my shoulders. My breathing remained shallow, but the policeman watched me still, silent in the shadows. He walked, circling the car, as if he was observing a dying cockroach on its back. "I am afraid." The man's eyes rolled in his head. His face stretched into a grimace. "It is not possible." His mouth contorted, the words strained, as if he had never spoken them before. "Not." His breath rattled in his throat as he hissed. "Oh." I felt the world shift again, and I was falling backwards, but I didn't hit the ground. I kept going, and going. My heart felt like it was going to burst. And then there was nothing. Here are the facts that I was given. I crashed into a ditch and I hit my head. In my panic, an asthma attack was triggered and I stumbled out of the car. Helpless, I then clutched at my throat with such force that I almost collapsed my own windpipe. Erratic behavior is common with concussions, or so I'd been told. Eventually, I dragged myself through the gravel to my car, where I managed to take my inhaler before losing consciousness. A woman on her morning commute had found me. The problem is, that isn't what I remember. I am afraid.